fake Facebook man, posting lies about my life which no one else can. Filters on my face to disguise my age, showing money that I don't have, there's words on my page. Why don't you come and join my team? It's called living the fake Facebook life dream. If they post a pic of me eating clean, but it's pizza and burgers for dinner, you know what I mean. A snapshot of vacations that I got no money to take. Send you one of my sports cars, you know that it's a fake. Got my love loaded up with things that aren't even true. Pretending on Facebook is my thing too. Yeah, 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 yeah.
2,000 friends, which I've never done met. A pic of my lunch is what you're gonna get. A hot post of your baby, say it's one darn cute kid. But I lied, cause it's ugly, that's called an online fib. I talk about success in my job and the pending promotion, but in reality it's a psych, cause I got a demotion.
Only the fake Facebook man, posting lies about my life which no one else can. Filters on my face to disguise my age, showing money that I don't have, there's words on my page. Why don't you come and join my team? It's called living the fake Facebook life dream.
You block me on Facebook without a judge, jury, or trial. I'll be creeping you the next day with a shiny new profile. See a pic of my family? Yeah, we're having a good time. Well, the joke's on you. We have not talked in 8 months or 9. I'll tell you about the weather and the stuff you don't need to know. I'll fake a good illness so the sympathy will grow. I'll ask you to donate to my made-up cause and post selfies on the daily, that ain't breaking no laws. So don't judge the life of the fake Facebook man, pretending to be happy like no one else can. All right, Mr. Kinsman, here we are.
That's it. We are live at the Surge.
Yes.
And a little bit different from our living rooms, dining rooms. We love the Surge. We're, of course, a part of a Timmins residency with Kim Donovan and the staff of the Surge for 12 months. And again, a couple of our shows a month will be streamed live from the Surge. And if you're here, you so happen to be here, you'll be able to be a part of our show. Like the Dart, there's League that's here on Wednesday nights. Maurice the Third and everybody that plays darts on Wednesdays hanging out over there right now. So they're having some fun.
I was really worried when they came in because I thought they were actually going to play darts.
Well, that's it.
Which is actually just behind us here.
Behind this beautiful backdrop provided by Sherry from Silver Linings. She has provided us with our home away from home backdrop, which is absolutely amazing. And again, when Maurice III came in and said, we've got a dart meeting tonight, I didn't hear the word meeting. And I'm thinking, okay, if you guys are going to be playing darts, they're going to be flying darts right over our head.
Right.
Would have made for an interesting show.
Okay, so we had a very busy day. I was up at 5:30. You might have slept in a bit.
No. Kids are school, and when you have a 5 and a 3-year-old daycare run, there's no such thing as sleeping in.
Let me ask you a question.
What's that?
Did you have a good meal today? Are you energized? It's a big show.
I did. I picked up chicken stew from Urban Farm in their ready-to-eat in heat aisle. They're ready-to-heat and eat aisle. Have you been to the Urban Farm lately? I went into the fridge. And it's perfect for a guy like myself. You know, usually I'm cooking for my little guys on weekends, but when they were back with their mom, nice, quick, easy to go meals. And again, chicken stew. Picked up some pepperettes. Erladale Farms, I want to say. So shout out to Erladale, the honey garlic pepperettes. I said I'm just going to try eating one. I ate 1 pack, so that's the problem.
All right, kids.
That's how good they are.
So once again, the big problem is you didn't invite me over for supper. But I'm glad you're energized because
it was a stew for one. So no.
We do have an amazing show tonight. We have all the 4 candidates for the Timmins-James Bay area. Don't forget to say James Bay.
Yes.
And they're coming on the show, and we're going to get to meet them, and we'll get to know who they are and their platforms. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be some fun. And again, if you're tuned into the show, not only will you have a chance to ask the candidates a question, and keep in mind, if you ask a question, direct it for all 4 of them, and they'll have their chance to address the question. And again, if you're following tonight's show in the comments section, you would have seen a post earlier on our KINZ and KLOMP Facebook page. We're giving away some free freebies tonight, $30 in farm to fork bucks from the Mountjoy Farmers Market. And also giving away 2 free movie passes from Gina Faca and the crew from Imagine Cinemas. And all you had to do was post your parental celebratory pic, your selfie, back on our Facebook page. Still time to do it. You can post, and we've got a bucket. We'll put in the ballots as the show goes on here.
All right, Kinsman. So I think it's time to bring on our guests.
Let's bring them on.
It's really weird sitting next to you because usually we do this separately.
We do it separately, so it's kind of awkward. But again, we're getting used to the confines of the Surge. Wanted to shout out Brandy, who's an amazing server here at the Surge. She's running a tight ship here tonight. All right. And again, the Dart League ready to go. So let's bring them on.
All right, here we go. I think you're wearing Old Spice, by the way.
But I don't wear Old Spice.
All right, so we'll bring them on here. There we go. There's Charlie. There's Steven.
Yeah.
And there's Mr. Black. Hello, everyone.
Yay. How's it going?
Hi, guys.
Hello.
We didn't expect 30 dart players in here tonight.
But again, it's a sports lounge. Anything can happen here at the Surge. I want to welcome each and every one of you to KINZ and KLOMP Live for a brief discussion. Again, it's it's just a nice little chat tonight, and glad that all of you had the chance to make it.
That's right. Yeah. So we do have some organization here, Kinsman, because we did plan and we do have our homework done. And we wanted to ask you each a question individually. And we'll start with Morgan, and we'll ask the same question to all the candidates. Maybe start by introducing yourself, Morgan, and tell us why you believe you're in the best position to represent the people in the North.
Thanks for having me out, guys. It's definitely an opportunity. The reason I threw my name in for the Conservative Party is that I'm actually a registered nurse in the riding. I specialize in psychiatric and mental health nursing. And very clearly, this is going to be one of the main points specifically for our riding, and of course for all of Canada. Right? It's something that's hitting very close to home, and it's absolutely something that needs to be addressed, and we need to get that change out there. I'm born and raised in the riding. Absolutely love the North, hunting, fishing. This is my realm. So, thank you guys for having us.
Oh, wonderful. And then I think we'll go by how they're lined up in the boxes.
Yeah, we'll go from left to right and then bottom left to right. So next up, Charlie Angus from the NDP. Welcome, Charlie, to KINZ and KLOMP Live.
Well, thanks so much. I did scope out where you guys were. I was figured maybe I could get up there and have one of your KINZ, and I can't believe you guys have a beer named after you. I've done a lot in my life. The only thing I ever got was a hamburger at Harvey's named after me. So I'm going to work on that. Why am I running? Why should people vote for me? We are in the midst of the biggest medical and economic catastrophe in this century. We're facing an environmental disaster, and we are going to be going back into another parliament that most likely will be a minority. And you're going to need someone who's got experience. And so I won't praise myself, and I don't think my other candidates will necessarily agree, but I will refer to the Liberals and Conservatives in the House of Commons who, when Macleod's magazine asked them to pick the MP that gave them the best mentorship, the one who gave them advice, Liberals and Conservatives said it was Charlie Angus, showing leadership, working with them, saying that I was one of the most knowledgeable. So I have a track record of working for people, of not being afraid to work across party lines, and not being afraid to take on government, which I've done time and time again for both Liberals and Conservatives. So we are not out of this pandemic by a long shot. We are still facing a fourth wave, so you're going to want someone in there who knows what they're doing. And I think I've got a pretty strong relationship with people all across this region, and I plan to keep working and representing the people.
No, well, thank you very much. Yeah, we really appreciate that. And then I think we'll move over to Mr. Steve Black, our former mayor. So first of all, thank you for joining us, Steve. We really appreciate it. I guess welcome back to the political realm. And
Yes.
Same question to you as we asked Morgan and Charlie.
Yeah, thank you, Jamie and Mark, obviously, for hosting us, giving us a chance to reach out to the voters here in Timmins-James Bay. I think every opportunity we get to do that, reaching out and letting them hear where we stand on issues is important. Also want to congratulate the other three candidates. 2021 politics isn't exactly necessarily the easiest job to step up and put yourself into the public spotlight on, and it takes a very passionate person who believes they can help make our country and our region better to step up and take that on and be willing to put themselves out there. So congratulations to all three of you. Look forward to the remaining days on the campaign and, of course, Election Day. As you mentioned, I am the former mayor of Timmins. I've served on our city council, mining engineer here in the region where I've worked in the mines most of my life. So I think between those two careers or job paths, I've gained a unique experience and exposure to the riding and what's important to the riding. And I've had the chance to work with both provincial governments and federal governments during my time in municipal politics, and really learn what the issues across our riding are and what's important to the people of our riding. And I think the Liberal Party is best positioned to address those issues going forward, but I'm sure the others, as Charlie mentioned, may disagree. But we'll have those discussions and debates today. And Charlie, I'm glad you're such a mentor, and should September 20th vote Steve Black for the next member, I'm okay if you want to provide some of that mentorship too.
There we go. Thanks a lot, Steve.
Yeah, thanks so much, Steve.
And then we move over to Stephen.
That's it. We go from Steve to Stephen Macleod from the People's Party of Canada.
That's right.
And welcome to KINZ and KLOMP Live.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. It's an honor to be here. I really appreciate you inviting us. It's especially in this day and age with everything that's going on. It's not easy to be able to get out there. Debates right now have been fun to try and schedule and organize, but we really appreciate giving that opportunity. I believe, as you were asking, why should people vote for me? And I am a kind of guy that I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty. Not afraid to roll up my sleeves and get in there and help. I come from a family that would give the shirt off their backs to help somebody in need, and that's carried on in me. And I really believe that this area it's time for a change. It's time for a voice to be heard, to fight for the people, not just the elites, but also the farmers, the little men too. And I know going around from town to town, that's what I'm hearing a lot of. And I am here. I have a voice, and you have a voice, and I want to hear your voice, and I want to fight for you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks, Stephen.
And I was laughing a little bit with Stephen today when we did the test. Stephen's a hat guy, just like me. So
yeah, we're all wearing our hats here, and it's funny. It's I don't wear the hat too often in the summer. It's almost like a transition when it goes from August, September. Hats come out, the hoodies come out. It's just the Northern Ontario way.
Good, yeah,
right.
Well,
and you're too.
I have a shiny spot.
Yeah, too lazy.
I have a shiny spot.
Right? Yeah, that's right. So maybe we did want to ask one other question to all the candidates before we open the floor, and I think we will go in the same order here, just for us to keep organized here, Mark. But we'll start with Morgan, and Morgan, if I was to sit down with you at Tim Hortons and say, what are a couple of the pressing issues right now, and how do you believe that yourself and your party would be in the best position to manage these issues? What would you tell me?
Well, I'd tell you that right now we are experiencing what the Liberals have to offer. Unfortunately, that is leaving a lot of people wanting at this point. Vote for the Conservative Party is obviously that vote for change. We have all kinds of very well thought out ideas in our platform that are going to help support everyone from, the working man to the person on disability to the businessman. So I think that this election, you're seeing a very different Conservative Party. It's one that I'm very proud to be representing, and obviously with mental health being swept into our platform and being heavily focused on is absolutely a thumbs up for me. So.
Yeah, that's good. That's right. And also, I believe your first time on a political campaign. And has it been everything you expected it to be?
My wife told me that I only get to run once. So,
so you pick and choose, right?
That's right.
Good for you. To me, anyone, Mark, who's passionate about something and chasing their dream, no matter if it's politics, entertainment, construction, I really love that. I really respect that. So congratulations.
Yeah, thanks so much, Morgan. And moving along, Mr. Angus, pressing issues for right here in Timmins-James Bay, and moving forward, where if elected again, what? How does the party, the NDP party, move forward with some of these very pressing issues?
Oh, you're on mute, Charlie.
I think one of the my other candidates has a secret mute button. I'm going to find out who has it. But Morgan, I do want to say my wife told me I had one shot at running too. So fortunately, that shot paid off. And so once you roll the dice once and you win, you're able to do it again. So I think it's really important. We ask ourselves, why in God's name did Justin Trudeau call this election in the middle of this pandemic? It's been completely unnecessary. From the beginning of the pandemic, it revealed so many things about our society, so many things that we took for granted, like the fact that we thought, we would be able to get through this so easily. We didn't have PPE. We didn't have, our Conservative friends sold off a world-class vaccine lab, and we were begging it on the international market. Some Canadians couldn't pay their rent within the first 3 weeks because of the precarious gig economy. So we stayed focused in my office very much on helping people. We worked very closely with the Chamber of Commerce weekly meetings to bring to Ottawa because the Trudeau government wasn't getting it. And I think my number one priority right now is we have to continue that work because we're not through this. But what we're seeing is issues of housing. Again, Paul Martin got rid of the national housing federal components, saying the private sector will step up. Well, they haven't. It's impossible for many young people to afford a house. We're getting gouged in the north on broadband. I mean, absolutely gouged. We give millions in support to the telecom giants, and they're not doing us any favors. We have to start dealing with those issues of affordability. The opioid crisis is devastating lives across Canada, and yet the Trudeau government has refused to deal with this as a national medical emergency. In Timmins, we know the effects of that. So this is an issue I want to continue to work on. And certainly the issue of diversification of the economy. We're looking at a lot of really strong features right now in the northern economy in terms of the resource sector, but diversification, that's why I fought to get FedNor standalone agency. I fought to make sure that we stay pretty much near the top of investments in, because we have such great projects, such great businesses, and I want to make sure that those investments continue after we get through the COVID crisis. So I want to continue that work that we've been doing all along through this crisis.
Well, thank you very much. And I love how you started it off, giving a short piece of advice to a Morgan based on your experience.
That's
and
right,
it is nice to share that. Before we move on to Steve Black, one of our questions is from the audience. Am I allowed to ask questions to the candidates? The answer is yes. Post them in the comment section. We ask that people, when you ask a question, if they could be appropriate for all the candidates to answer. And it looks like we lost someone there.
We lost Steve Black.
We lost Steve Black. So we'll go.
He's having some lighting issues there. We'll allow him to come back in there. But we can start with the other candidates.
Well, we can ask Stephen Macleod. We can ask him the exact same question. Like, what do you believe, Stephen, are the pressing issues in the north? And, why do you believe that? What would be your plan of attack for your party to address some of these issues?
Well, actually, I believe the major issue right now, it's on everybody's minds, everybody's tongue, is this COVID pandemic, whatever you want to call it. The current government has placed such restrictions on people. They've come down so hard on people and really made it into more of a police state than it is a free Canada, that pretty soon we're not going to be able to even go in a restaurant unless you have this VAC pass. I was talking to an 85-year-old lady today, and she doesn't even have a cell phone. But yet they're working towards making it so that you have to have a cell phone for this. They want to get rid of the little paper slip. It was actually right on the news today from the health minister. And she's like, I don't know what to do. And my party and myself, we are actually against the government overreach, the forcing it down our throats. We're not against the vaccine itself. We're not against any of that. If you want to get the vaccine, if you already have the vaccine, that's good. I'm happy for you. If you don't have it, that's good. I'm happy for you. It's when we get into being forced into something like this. And people bring up all kinds of other issues like the Spanish flu. Well, you know what? The Spanish flu, the government told you to go outside, get your vitamin D. And that was the big thing. And that's what helped them. This vaccine, for me personally, there's not enough information on it yet. When there is more information, then I will make my decision then if I need to get it or not. But right now, to be pushed like this is not right. And our party is standing firm on that. Mr. Bernier, our party leader, has stated it right from the beginning, and he stood firm on that right through. He hasn't wavered. And you know what? It falls into so many other categories. Like Mr. Ellerton was talking about mental health. These pandemics, these lockdowns have increased the amount of suicide rates all across our country and really hurt a lot of people, right from children right through to adults, when it comes to mental health. And it's become a huge, huge issue that needs to be addressed. And the mental health continues on from there, even to what Mr. Angus was saying about the opioid addictions. Because when you get into that deep depression, you're looking for anything to try and get yourself out of it. And people turn to that, and it's unnecessary. And it's caused so many heartaches, so many deaths, and families that are now without their loved ones. And for what? There's no reason for it. And I know for me and my party, we need to come against that. We need to lift some of these lockdowns and restrictions and bring Canada back to the free country that we all grew up in and love.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. And we're absolutely,
Thanks,
Mark,
Stephen. Yes.
you and I will circle back on the vaccination question, because I'm sure the other candidates do have a position on that. But we do want to talk with Steve and ask him a question, and then we'll circle back to the vaccinations.
That's right.
But Steve, the same question to you. If we were to sit down and have a cup of coffee, and I asked you, what do you believe some of the most pressing issues are right now, and what would be, yours and your party's a plan to address these issues? What would you tell us?
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. Had a power bump. Charlie's got someone with the mute button. I got someone with the power button. Have to look Morgan's way since the hydro's in the provincial control. But no, this is a good question, guys. And there's so many issues across our riding, and the people, when you're out hearing the people at the doors and what's important to them, it's a wide range of topics. And some of the other candidates have talked about the importance of mental health in the opioid crisis, and the amount of overdose deaths. Northern Ontario is leading in the rates of overdose deaths amongst the country, and that has to change. And the only way that's going to change is if we push to have the supports and the dollars there to build the treatment centers and get people the help they need. So that's a definitely a top priority for our region and right across this country is to have the proper treatment facilities. So when someone wants to go get help, there's a place to go get help. And there's nothing more tragic than having residents, friends, family, loved ones ready to go get the help and asking to get the help, but not having a place to turn to go get that help. So definitely a priority. When we look at our rural Indigenous communities, access to services, access to health, reconciliation, clean drinking water, there's just so big of a list of priorities that needs to change and that the government needs to do better on it. I'm not afraid to admit that. We need to do better in that area, and we need to make improvements. When you look at, communities that have to evacuate year after year after year and have been talking relocation for decades, it's time to step up and help those communities carry out their plans, work with them, listen to them, hear what their plans are, and help them execute those plans any way we can. So that's definitely a priority. And affordability is a big one. It doesn't matter whether you're young adults, hardworking middle-class families, or seniors who have put in your time working in this great country of ours and are now just trying to enjoy retirement. Affordability is an issue. We have plans to make childcare much more affordable, starting with a 50% reduction in the first year and aiming towards a $10 a day childcare. We're a party that supports increasing the GIS and the OAS for seniors. So I think those are critical issues. And here in Timmins, we see it across the north. We see it. Homelessness is an issue that we need to get on top of. All the parties, and again, I'm not afraid to say we need to do more. All the parties have plans in terms of affordable housing and homes, but we need to do more. We need to step up and we need to do more. And we need to build more houses and more affordable homes. So those are key ones that I think need to be addressed. Some of the key ones. We'll continue talking. There's lots of key priorities, as Charlie mentioned. We're still in the middle of a pandemic. Trying to keep people safe, trying to keep people in their houses financially through the pandemic has been an important issue that has needed to be done. And having assistance programs for people, for businesses, for small businesses, to keep them afloat during this pandemic has been a priority and will continue to be a priority as we go forward in the next couple months. As it looks like we're entering a fourth wave now. So important to continue that work and take care of the people as priority number one. I can keep talking if you want.
Oh, there we go.
There they are.
Hello.
Morgan took over. It looks like you're running the show, Morgan. Did you take over from those guys?
Yeah,
they're off playing darts. They're off. They were doing a dart thing there while you were talking, Steve. We got to
they're doing a dart meeting right
put
behind us there.
just a screen cap up
behind us. Who knows?
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe one of the darts flew over the head. But I was saying before that happened, Mark, all the candidates, they're bringing up, there are a lot of issues our country's facing right now.
Yeah.
But the thing that's the biggest in the news, anyways, people talk about are the vaccines in Ontario
and the vaccine passports that are being drawn out. I know, we've got ours coming in for September 22nd, New Brunswick, the rest of the country following suit. A lot of people thinking this is a little bit too much, using a vaccine passport. What's your take on the vaccine passport?
So maybe we could ask that to Charlie first.
Yeah, we can ask that to Charlie first, and then the rest of you can answer the question as well. First of all, do you think the vaccine passport is the way to go? There was a poll I just saw today. 80% of the country says no. What do you have to say for the passport? And if it needs to be tweaked, what needs to happen to it?
Well, one of the things that I think was really moving through the pandemic was how Canadians stood up. Canadians helped out. Canadians did what had to be done. Because Canadians care about one another. We looked south of the border where we saw the, I'm all right, Jack Americanisms. We saw the conspiracy theory, the BS that was being pushed by the anti-maskers, the attempts they took against, standing out and attacking nurses and doctors who are keeping people safe. That's not us. And when I talk to people, they want desperately for everyone to do their part. Because, it's like I'm driving down the highway. I don't care what music you listen to. I don't care what you're talking about in your car. But if you're drinking and driving in my lane, I got a problem with that. And, I was knocking at a door today. It was a People's Party candidate. She told me 200,000 people had died from the vaccine. Where did she get that misinformation? I had a person from the People's Party the other day get mad at me because I wasn't supporting horse dewormer as a solution for COVID. I mean, this person wouldn't take a vaccine, but was willing to chug a lug horse dewormer. If you ask the people of Timmins, if you ask the businesses, they want us desperately to get through without the fourth wave. And the fourth wave is coming from people who choose not to get vaccinated. So my friend, Mr. Macleod, if he doesn't want to get vaccinated, no problem. He wants to go to the grocery store, no problem. He wants to go to the hardware store and pick up stuff, no problem. But if he wants to sit beside me in a restaurant and cough, I got a problem with that. And I bet the owners of the restaurants have a problem with that. So that's why we need to address these issues. The idea that a vaccine passport is something new, I mean, your kids need it. We need it. You want to travel, you have to have your vaccines done because it's about looking after each other. It's about being caring and responsible. And that's who we are as Canadians. And you know what? We're going to get through this together. And I think that we're going to see that Canadians are not going to give into this division, this fear, this disinformation, this kind of vitriol that we see coming out of the States. That's not the Canadian way.
Well, thank you very much.
Well,
and
thanks, Charlie.
And I think naturally we would go to Mr. Macleod now because Charlie did specifically mention his position in his party. What would be your response to that, Stephen?
Well, first off, as far as I know, I'm the only candidate, and last time I checked, I'm not a female. So I'm not sure who he was talking to as a PPC candidate there.
Oh, no, I said a person at the door, PPC. Sorry if I said that. I meant a PPC person at the door.
I figured. It can go both ways because I know I've talked to NDP supporters and Conservative supporters and Liberal supporters too over the past week and a bit, and stories can go both ways. I know me personally. I know that I've never gone online and called people white extremists and building a hate movement. I've tried to encourage people to do their research. And that's what I've done. Some of my research I can't back up because I don't have it for sure. And I try not to spread that. As for the passport system, Charlie is right. I had a little card. I remember seeing my parents have a little card with what vaccinations I did get at the time. I don't know where that is anymore. I don't have it. I don't think my mom has it. I'm not sure who could actually in their adult years find that little card. So Morgan does. Most people I know that they don't even know where their immunization records are anymore. And did you know that you're supposed to keep up on those immunizations right through your years? And not too many people have done that either.
Yeah, the doctors you do.
What's that?
Well, when you got to go to the doctors, they check your immunization. You don't carry it in your pocket. You go to the doctor. They say, "Oh, I noticed that you haven't had this in 10 years." That's when you get it, when you see the doctor.
Well, you must have a good doctor then, because I know mine hasn't done that.
You must be up to date, man.
Not as far as I know, because I don't see my doctor very much. But as for this thing, my question would be, why are we throwing, $1 billion across all the provinces for this to make it better? I don't see, first off, where's that money coming from? Where are they going to dig that money up from? I know my wallet is getting pretty thin. I know most people, their wallets are getting pretty thin. And for what? they're wanting to make it, like I said earlier, they're wanting to put it all on your little mobile device. And where's that going to go from there? It's going to get more information, more of your personal information going to get added on there, because I mean, we already got it, so why not? Pretty soon all your information is going to be on this device. And talking to an IT guy today, I didn't bring it up, he brought it up. And he says there's so many loopholes now because technology is expanding and growing so rapidly that there's all kinds of chinks all through the programming and that. And he says, he could go on any moment. And he said, if I wanted to, I could probably get into any information because of all these little backdoors all over the place. And, you know, that's just leading you up for identification fraud and more. And it's not right. It's not necessary. I know many businesses I've talked to, restaurants, like Charlie mentioned restaurants. Number one, I don't think anybody in their right mind is going to be like coughing at or on someone unless they're like a little child. But most of us are adults here, and you kind of know you need to cough into your elbow to protect someone else. And I mean, if you're worried about it, put a mask on. But we already know that science has proven that the COVID virus itself can go right through our masks. It's mostly just meant to stop our spit. So where do we go from here? That's a very good question. But I don't believe that the vaccine passports are the right way to go.
And if we move over to Morgan, Mark, and just like yes, Morgan, I'm sure like you have a lot of friends, whether it's on social media or personally, and there's opinion, especially recently when it came to the passport. So where does the Conservative Party stand? And how would you properly represent, I guess, the majority of the voice in the North when it comes to the vaccinations and the passports?
Absolutely. There's a ton of misinformation out there, and it is scaring absolutely everybody, right? The conservative stance is if you can get your vaccination, absolutely do so, right? This is the only way that we can move out of this pandemic or endemic, if you want to sort of even break it down to just the country, because other countries are doing a little better than we are. But the only way out is by getting these vaccinations and by sort of limiting the spread, right? I've worked in the hospital through this entire pandemic. I've worked in the public through this entire pandemic. I've worn my masks. I haven't caught COVID-19. So, I mean, it obviously is adding that level of protection for me. But it's a topic that just is scaring everybody across Timmins-James Bay and all of the country. The Conservative Party also respects the province's right to manage their own public health guidelines. So when it comes to a vaccine passport, that should be at the provincial level. We know that Mr. Ford did announce that we are going to go with the vaccine passports. And I don't really feel it's my place to have an opinion on that. But the idea of a vaccine passport does support small businesses. It does allow them to control who is coming in and out of their establishments. It's not as discriminatory as some might feel it is, but because we're still going to allow you access to go and get your groceries. You're still going to have access to go and get everything that you need for essential life. But it's unfortunate once again that this disinformation is out there and it's causing just so much fear, and the fear is obviously spilling over in the internet forums to a lot of hatred. So we need to reunite as Canadians do, and we need to push through this thing. It's not going away unless we unite and decide to work together. So
That's right.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Morgan. It's definitely a very debated topic in businesses with circles of friends and families. And over to you, Steve. How do you believe, obviously, the Prime Minister has been at the forefront of leading the attack, I'll call it, against COVID. for the country. How do you believe that they have measured up to other countries? And do you think that the Liberal Party will make any adjustments? And will that be a good representative of the one in the north?
Yeah, I think when you look around the world and vaccine administration rates, and there's a lot of criticism when the vaccine rollout started, but coming through, we're almost at, I think it's 85% with their first dose and over 75% with their second dose fully vaccinated, ahead of what the initial projected schedule was, to have enough vaccines that any Canadian that chose to get vaccinated could get vaccinated. So I think overall we've done pretty good. Obviously, when you're going through something like this, you can always look back and say, we could have done better here, or maybe that decision didn't work out as best. When it comes to vaccines, obviously, we're very supportive of anyone that can get their vaccine to get their vaccine. As some of the other candidates have mentioned, this is the best path we have right now to get out of this. I am fully vaccinated. And, we've offered, there has been the one thing I'll say is, vaccine passports, lockdowns, COVID measures, or anything shouldn't matter what the politicians think about them. It should matter what the healthcare professionals and healthcare advisors think of them. And the politicians should implement what they feel is best recommended by those health officials to keep the general population safe. So I'm not too concerned, on what my personal belief is, or what 5 people on Facebook's belief is about lockdowns or passports or vaccines or not vaccines. My concern is, what do the health officials recommend is the best path forward for us to get out of this? And, last year, this time we were discussing, when are we going back into the next lockdown? That's the biggest restrictive task you can have. So now we're saying, if we have vaccine passports, maybe we can still get out and do some of those activities for those that are fully vaccinated. Given the choice of, full lockdowns or restricted activities, I'll err on the restricted activities and try and support and allow our local businesses and people in the community to support each other the best they can. It's definitely been a very tough year and a half. We started off COVID-19. Everyone was so positive, rallying together. Everyone was cheering the frontline, first line responders and nurses and healthcare workers. And, people were gathering together to honk their horns and clap and celebrate the hard work these people were doing during a crisis. And unfortunately, it's taken a turn, and it's now become a very strenuous thing. As obviously, as time goes on, it's going to get more strenuous as people are suffering through all sorts of personal difficulties and personal mental health issues staying at home. So I think there's a lot of things at play here. There's impacts of being cooped up at home. So if vaccine passports, allow more people to get out and interact and get that interaction that they need with people, then that's a good thing. I think we've seen, we talk about mental health and overdoses. Those numbers have also gone up during this pandemic. That's a problem. The more we continue to have lockdowns and isolate people on their own, and they, sitting at home thinking negative thoughts too much, that's an issue that we need to get away from, and we need to beat this pandemic and find a way to live and work through it. So I'm comfortable that my position going forward is that the people that should be making healthcare decisions are healthcare professionals and healthcare advisors, and the politicians of any party should trust the people that are professionals in that area.
Thank you very much. And Steve, he mentioned something very appropriate at the end, because it's a very common question we're getting. And this is from Lou Lemieux, and we've had it from a few people. Please let me know what you're planning to do about the opioid pandemic, the crisis. And they're looking for a little more details, because obviously, as this whole group knows, it has affected a lot of individuals and families. We've lost friends and family members too early. So maybe, Steve introduced the topic. He talked about it at the end, but maybe you can expand a little more, Steve, about, if you're in the position what you would help to do to manage this crisis, specifically for the people in the north.
Yeah, as I said, this is an issue that our region, and not just Timmins-James Bay, but Northern Ontario as a whole, leads in terms of overdose death rates amongst Canada. So it's definitely an issue we need to tackle of. The government has put over $500 million towards the opioid crisis, but it's not enough. You look at where we are, you look at the challenges we still face, it hasn't put a dent in fighting the problem. So my personal belief is we need to do more. I will lobby long and hard and fight within my own party to do more if we are in government. And if we are not, I will fight long and hard with whoever is in government to do more, because this is an issue that we can't afford to wait anymore. And as I said before, I think where we need to go is in the treatment centers. People can't afford to want to get help and not get help. That, as a country, is us failing. If you can't provide the basic help and treatment that people need, and you can't invest the dollars to set up that treatment in the proper way so people don't have to travel halfway across the country or halfway across the province to get the help they need, then we failed. So I think there's a lot more work to do here. I won't stop fighting until we see the proper investments and the proper treatment facilities set up to serve the population that needs it.
Good. And then I think we should maybe go over to Mr. Angus. The same question. I'm sure you hear plenty of concerns about this topic from the members of our community.
Well, thanks so much. I'll follow up on what Steve was talking about. I first became aware of an opioid problem probably around 2007, 2008. We started to deal with it in our office, and you don't think a federal member of parliament's office is dealing with opioids. We were dealing with Oxycontin then. Didn't know anything about it. And we started the first Oxycontin task force in Timmins. And Timmins, that task force was one of the first in the country. We did a lot of public awareness, and we began to learn, number one, the massive overprescription that was going on of people who were going into the hospital with a broken wrist or that and coming out with a bag of Oxy. What we didn't know then was that there was a track record 10 years long in the United States of deaths and addiction from Oxy. When the makers of Oxycontin were starting to get hammered with massive lawsuits in the United States, they moved their operations of promoting it into the medical system in Canada. And there's been no accountability in Canada for going after big pharma. That is a thing we need to do. Many American states have gone after them for multi-billion-dollar settlements. We haven't done that. So that's part of it. I became aware of fentanyl when we started to see some young people dying from it. And we set up a fentanyl task force. Our office worked with first responders, the city. But then, of course, we realized how much bigger it was. It wasn't the patches coming out of the hospitals that we thought. We began to learn that this is like international gangs, international illegal labs. That you can't. I met a woman in Kirkland Lake the other day who lost her son because he went out to buy pot and it was laced with fentanyl. That boy didn't deserve to die, and the people who sold him that, we have to go after them. So the gangs that are bringing this in, we have to get serious about that. But in saying that, we have to talk about decriminalizing people who are using, because they are not criminals. They are suffering from a medical crisis. And we have to wrap services around them. I met another woman whose son died in Sudbury. I was talking to her this afternoon. When her son died, she tried to get justice. And she said they treated her like her son was a criminal. Well, he wasn't a criminal. He had an addiction to a drug that killed him. So we need to say to those who are using, you are not a criminal. We are there for you, and we need to start wrapping the services around them to keep them safe and alive. And that's going to take a lot of thinking outside the box. We're going to have to look at what was done in Portugal. We have, as Steve mentioned, the need for massive mental health services. We, as New Democrats, are saying the only way we can bring all these parts to bear is to call this a national medical emergency and start to listen to the doctors. In fact, in Timmins, I would say, the medical community has done enormous work on teaching us in the political realm, teaching us in civil society what addiction is. Certainly Lou Lemieux, I want to give a huge shout out to No More. They started in Timmins, they're organized in Kirkland Lake. Survivors of the drug crisis who are bringing their voices to the table. They have to be part of the solution. This isn't something that gets figured out at Health Canada and gets exported to the nation. This happens in places like Timmins where we already have roundtables working on this. It comes from the grassroots, and the federal government's role is to work with and to make sure that we have all the resources necessary for the treatment centers, for dealing with addictions, for making sure that we have the mental health supports, and again, for the legal issues of being able to go after the large gangs that are promoting this, going after the international trade in it, but making sure that the people who are suffering from it are not being treated as criminals. They are not criminals. They are suffering from addictions. They are our brothers. They are our nieces. They are our loved ones. And we have to take the steps to keep them alive until they can come out of addiction. That's what we need to be looking at in terms of a broad, national-based strategy.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Charlie.
And I think we should ask the same question to Morgan, because all these, everyone we're talking to today are not just running for a position in office. They're also members of our community, and they have friends and families in this community. More than likely, they know someone who's been directly affected either from a substance issue or mental health issue, and it's definitely at the forefront. So Morgan, keeping with the same theme, because it's very important, how would you start to address these issues and help the people in our community?
Absolutely. And I'd like to thank Lou Lemieux from No More. I think she was the one that actually asked the question. But absolutely, without people like her, without groups, grassroots groups that are coming up and bringing this to the forefront, we wouldn't even be here talking about this tonight. So absolutely thank you, Lou, for bringing this into national headlines. Once again, I'm a registered nurse. I work in the community. I have given Narcan. We go to all the overdose calls in the community. It's a crisis in its own, right? We absolutely need to get the resources located here. We need detox centers. We need more counseling. Most of our counseling centers, you've got a month, 6 weeks wait list to get in. And those of us who work in the mental health field understand that most substance use is driven by a past trauma, right? And if we're not going to identify and support this past trauma, then, what are we really doing here, right? We can't just, say, okay, well, please stop using drugs, because that's not going to work. This is something that obviously I'm very passionate about. It's like I said, my bread and butter. I've worked closely with Dr. Sampson and Dr. Louisa Marion Bellemare, sorry. We, Timmins, the whole riding, we're way behind the 8 ball here. With the Suboxone administration and the Sublocade injections, the rest of the country's doing this. If we had task force working on this, how come they didn't get this information and bring it to the forefront for us? It's completely unacceptable that we're behind the times simply because we're living up here in the north and just not really represent. Well, I don't want to say not represented, but we're never matching up with the party that's in power at the time, right? So, Charlie's doing a great job trying to get the message across, though matching up with either red or blue would absolutely get some more answers for us here in the north, right? It's I think that if we don't invest, we're going to experience significantly more deaths. So it's time for us to absolutely invest in opening those detox centers, getting those beds, and getting these people supported when they want it, not a month later.
Thank you very much, Morgan. And now, Mr. Macleod, very curious to see what their party's position is on definitely. That. And once again, this is a question that's commonly asked. We even hear these questions every day because we know people that we love, people that we care about in our community. And if you open up the obituaries, if you read them online, if you open them up in the newspaper, it's just too much. And something has to be done to assist to people that are suffering. So what is your position on that, Stephen?
Well, my position is you actually got to step back and take a look. Ask yourself what's driving this, kind of what the future is that we're presenting to our youth. And I really believe that, especially here in the North, we really need to equip our families, help them succeed, give them a future. We really need to give them something to work for and be proud of. Too many of us or too many of our kids are turning to these things because they don't know what else to do. They're depressed. They're just trying to fit in, and look what's happening from it. I do appreciate the work that Charlie and his team has done to try and help these people, because every bit of help is desperately needed. Talking to some of the families, a lot of them feel that some of our shelters, some of our clinics aren't really doing much to help them other than to help them cope for the time being, help them to get clean for a little bit, but they're not giving them true answers on how to actually get over it and get clean and stay clean. That's the thing. These clinics can help them get clean, but they're not helping them stay clean. We need to find ways to help these people find a better way of life instead of going back to the same old, same old. I was talking to a gentleman the other night, and he spent time down in North Bay at the rehab clinic in North Bay. And some of what he said was pretty shocking. And talking to a woman actually in Englehart, her marriage was broken up. Her husband went to North Bay as well, and they have a co-ed shelter clinic there for rehab. So now you have a 40 some odd, 50 some odd year old gentleman that is looking for something to take the place of this drug in his life. And there's a 20 some odd year old girl in the same way, and it's wrecking families. We need to actually take a look at our shelters. We need to take a look at our clinics, take a good, serious look at our clinics and say, what's going on from here? Our party itself, we don't have much in the way of policies in regards to that, but I know that our party is very open to hearing private members' bills. They're acceptant. They actually want to hear from us. And I know for me personally, I would actually sit down with members in our different communities right across our riding and find out exactly what we need, and then take that and draft up private members' bills and see how we can help our clinics and help our shelters actually get the help they need and get the people the help they need.
Thanks so much, Stephen. And, looking at some of our comments coming in, from Krista Carrier, she says, not many realize these nurses are struggling and deserve more, especially in long-term care facilities. And she says, let's talk about healthcare workers, specifically the RPNs.
Yeah, so I guess the question would be, and we can ask Stephen just to continue on, healthcare workers have been our superheroes in this country, for many countries, forever, but definitely the last couple years. Are we doing enough for them to ensure that they can continue to provide these awesome services, that they're adequately supported? Are we paying the proper wages? Are we ensuring that they're not burning out? Are we doing enough as a country? And if not, what can be done?
That is an excellent question. I actually really appreciate that question. I have a lot of family that are in healthcare. I have an aunt that's a retired nurse. I have cousins that are currently nurses. They just finished their program. So I do have a lot of family that are in healthcare. And I can honestly say that the job that they do, they definitely deserve more. You look at the money that doctors make compared to what the nurses make, and nurses will spend on average probably 80 to 85% more time with a patient than a doctor will. They know often more about patients than even some of the doctors do. And I think Morgan probably agree with me on that. They are definitely our heroes. They are our front line. When you go into a hospital and when you go into an emerge, who do you see first? You don't see the doctor first. You go see the triage nurse first. And they have to deal with everything before the doctor shows up. And I do believe that they need more support from our government. They do need to be paid properly, and we really need to be able to hear them out. I feel that their voices are being stifled, as well as so many other Canadians. And I know that's part of my platform, is that every voice matters, your voice matters. And if we don't hear what their concerns are, we can't address them. We can't help them. And I know that a lot of them feel that their voices aren't heard, and we need to really change that.
Yes, thank you. And Charlie, I guess the exact same question to you.
Okay, well, this is a good question for me. My grandmother, Lola McNeil, was in the first graduating class at St. Mary's Hospital. Yes, I don't know if anyone else here is old enough to remember St. Mary's. I was born there. My mother was born there. My grandmother met my grandfather when he broke his back underground at the McIntyre. So out of that sad story came a great family, and ended up, I'm part of it. So they were all nurses. My mom's sisters, my grandmother's, but nursing has changed dramatically, and certainly COVID has really exposed the stress on the nursing profession. We have a number of issues that we need to look at in terms of practical healthcare. Our PSWs supply so much frontline service to keep seniors and people with injuries in their homes, and they get paid dismally. They get paid like crap. They don't get paid for the day. They get paid for the amount of time they're with a patient. So if they have to drive in a rural area in Northern Ontario, they don't get paid. I'm sorry, Doug Ford. That's not proper. Pay them properly, and we won't have huge waiting lists like we do in Englehart right now, because nobody wants to do a job that's so stressful that they're not getting paid properly for. And the PSWs keep people from ending up in the hospital. So it's a smart investment. In terms of nurse practitioners, we are having a doctor crisis in Cochrane. Nurse practitioners can carry so much of the load, and yet they aren't being given the authority to do the work that they're qualified to do. So we can work with nurse practitioners to carry more of this load. For the New Democrats federally, we want to invest in the healthcare system after years of underfunding, and it's both Liberal and Conservative going back and forth, to get at least 2,000 new nurses hired. And part of that is because they carried so much stress during the pandemic. There was a lot of burnout. We need to respond to that. And then the other element that COVID exposed is the brutal conditions in long-term care. The highest death rates in the COVID crisis were in the for-profit long-term care system. The fact that, 2 for-profit long-term care institutions in Ontario received $157 million of federal money while hundreds of seniors were dying, and they paid out $74 million of that to their shareholders. Not on my watch. Shareholders, I'm sorry, when the grandmothers and mothers and fathers that we love were being left to die in those long-term care private for profits, and they were paying out to shareholders, we need to take the for-profit out of the medical system and reinvest it into health. And in the North, we have a real opportunity, and I think Timmins could play a huge role with telehealth because of our relationship with the James Bay coast, the communities on the coast where we have such abysmally low medical services and standards right now. And we're dealing with this all the time in the communities. But we could really, if we look at a coherent regional strategy, because a lot of that funding is federal. The federal government is looking after a lot of the First Nation funding. for health, and they underfunded dramatically. We could work certainly in the Timmins region with our hospital and start to build a cohesive telehealth and a more responsive health system, so that we really improve the health services for people in communities like Kishetchewan, like Fort Albany, like Pewanak, like Martin Falls.
There we go. Thank you very much,
Thanks,
Charlie.
Charlie.
We really appreciate that. And then who should we move on to now, Mark?
Steve Black.
Yes, Mr. Black.
Let's move on. What's your take on the very same question there, Steve?
Yeah, I think it's important we talk about the solutions and what we're going to do, right? We're all aware when it comes to healthcare and shortages, what we're experiencing in the north. We all know someone who can walk down the street, have a conversation, and they won't have a family doctor or a family health team to go see. So our plan, and Charlie touches on a great important aspect here, which is the long-term care, which has definitely been exposed during the pandemic as an area that needs a major overhaul. Our plan includes a Safe Care Act introduction to improve quality standards across the country. We look at supporting through funding, hiring 50,000 PSWs and improving their wages to a minimum $25 an hour. And we look at funding and health transfers to the provinces to support hiring 7,500 doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners to support communities that are understaffed in those areas. And when you dig deeper into our plan, it's good for our region and our riding because there's a focus on the rural areas and incentives to attract those health professionals to practice in places like Northern Ontario and rural settings. So I think that's important. We need to step up and support the provinces. Every time I talk about this, people tell me, healthcare is provincial. Why are you talking about healthcare? Healthcare is provincial, like many other things that are provincial, but a lot of the funding comes from the federal government. And that's our role, is to step up and have agreements with the provinces that support the needs across this country, and ensuring that there's more PSWs, more doctors, more nurses, more nurse practitioners across the country and in rural settings, and that the funding's there to support that is of critical importance going forward.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, appreciate that. And then finally, over to Morgan. Exact same question.
Yeah, certainly. I would echo a lot of the things that most people are saying here tonight, or most of the candidates are mentioning tonight. I actually had the opportunity this summer to work for Northern College, and I was able to teach the accelerated PSW program. We are pumping out the PSWs into the communities as quickly as possible, which is obviously going to help meet this need, right? The question, I think, was more specific to the RPN. And they have an ever expanding scope of practice. They're expected to do more and more and more. Almost every single month, there's something new being added to their scope of practice, right? And there's some frustration among them, right? Because we've got these three different classes, from the RN to the RPN to the PSW, and some of these wages have been locked down. So I can definitely agree with the frustration for the question that was asked. But I think most people have already mentioned it's about increasing these payments to the provinces, right? The Conservatives are looking at investing $60 billion in health transfers to the provinces over the next 10 years, which is a substantial investment. This is something that's going to actually give hospitals the ability to hire staff, to retain staff. Once again, working in a pandemic here, I'm seeing all of my colleagues say, this is tough. I'm out of here. We're going to go, work in another field. So our healthcare system is absolutely hemorrhaging nurses. We're not able to retain them. Without them, and everyone's mentioned with the frontline support, without them, our system is going to crumble. So it's absolutely time to recognize that healthcare needs to be center of this election as well.
Can I just interrupt here, because I don't want to say something out of turn, but I think Morgan is an amazing nurse. I don't want him to feel burnt out. I don't want him to feel he should look for another profession. And I'm more than willing to go back to Parliament and say him and all his colleagues deserve a raise in pay.
Well, hopefully I don't have to go back to work at the hospital, Charlie. No,
Yeah.
But if you do, you call me and I'll make sure that we're there for you.
Absolutely.
All right.
So we have a lot of questions, and obviously
lots of questions on the docket, and one of them coming in from Sarah Wing tonight. She says, "Let's talk First Nation." You hear it every election. They say, you know, we're going to bring clean water to the deplorable living conditions in First Nation communities, but nothing ever seems to be done. You know, what's the issue? Is there going to be, you know, a page in this upcoming election where, you know, it's time to put clean water into who have, you know, been living with, you know, terrible conditions for decades now?
Who do you want to start with, Mark? You got to pick that.
Let's start with Mr. Black, Steve Black. What do you think here? If you were the one and the Liberals won the candidate, you know, if you're riding here in Timmins-James Bay, how would you how would you tackle the issue of the water situation up north?
Yeah, first let me say, and I think this is something all the candidates would agree to, living in Canada, there's no community that should go without clean drinking water. That's a fact. That's an issue that needs to be addressed. You know, when the Liberal government took over, there was over 160 long-term water advisories in effect under the previous government. They've removed 109 of those, but there's still work to be done with over 50 remaining. I will say each of those communities does have a project team in place and is working on plan and funding set aside to address the issue. But I would agree with anybody and probably everybody across our country that this is an issue that shouldn't have to wait and needs to be addressed. It's nothing but shameful in 2021 to have communities in Canada without clean drinking water. And as much as everything we talk about is a priority today, the living conditions, the access to clean drinking water, the access to health services, the access to housing of our Indigenous communities has to be of paramount importance. And I don't think any candidates would argue that today.
Over to Stephen. Would you agree with what Steve is saying? And do you have the same perspective? Because obviously something needs to be done immediately.
Yes. I don't know if I'd have exactly the same idea. He is right on the fact that there should be no reason why any community in Canada, a prosperous nation like Canada, should be living in a third world style of living. Our government seems to be able to give lots of money over to other third world nations, but yet we can't take care of our own people. How can we justify giving $5 billion a year in foreign aid when Indigenous communities don't have drinking water? To me, that just boggles my mind. And I know for us, we actually want to prioritize on the basis of our core 4 key principles, which is we respect and freedom and fairness and responsibility. We know that Ottawa spends about $21 billion a year on Indigenous programs, but there's no evidence that living conditions have improved. I was talking to a lady today that she's been up in Fort Albany and saw the housing that was donated to the communities, and it's Southern Ontario housing. Even if they had proper clean drinking water, the pipes would freeze because there's no insulation in these houses. There's nothing. Even these houses would be barely minimum living standards for Southern Ontario. So where's the money coming from first and foremost? And how do we help them? And we really believe that we want to encourage and equip the Indigenous communities. We want to help them and give them control over their lives again and help them create better infrastructure, and stand with them instead of controlling them, instead of telling them what they should do and shouldn't do. We want to stand with them and help them and support them.
Thank you so much,
Thanks
Stephen.
so much, Stephen.
We appreciate that. And over to you, Charlie.
Well, thank you. I think for me, my biggest letdown and frustration with the Trudeau government is the abandonment of the promise of reconciliation. In 2015, he said his relationship with First Nation people was his most important priority. And, you know, I thought, okay, maybe this is a historic moment. He made that promise in 2015 about clean drinking water on reserves. But what we saw, the government was found guilty of what the Human Rights Tribunal referred to as, quote, willful and reckless discrimination against the most vulnerable children in the country, First Nation children. The government has spent millions of dollars on lawyers to try and overturn the Human Rights Tribunal. The Parliament of Canada, all parties, called on the Trudeau government to stop this fight against the children, and the Trudeau government ignored it and were in court the following week. So this is about the destruction of the Indigenous family, the taking of the children away from their communities. It's happening every day. They're being taken and put in homes in Southern Ontario, away from their language, away from their culture, because the government refuses to close the funding gap, refuses to give control over child welfare. So that's just part of the failure of reconciliation. We know the fight of the St. Anne's residential school survivors. Carolyn Bennett, the Minister for Indigenous Relations, spent $15,000 a week on lawyers, fighting against people who often couldn't even afford the bus fare to go to the hearings. And we now know today, reports come out, massive miscarriage of justice, because government was a conservative government at the time, but the Liberals supported it, suppressed the evidence of horrific crimes. So how does that relate to water? Well, you know, the government has this track record of all the places that they're going to get water to and how it's going to get done. They got to stop looking at it as a press release and look at it as the fundamental problem. I was in Nescandiga just a month ago. They have a new water plant. It was built. Government just never finished it. And they never sit down to actually talk through what is appropriate, whether or not the contractors, who often do shoddy work and leave town, the communities are always having to deal with the contractors. The fact whether or not the water system is appropriate in the first place. You know, you've got a stagnant water pool, so you got to fill it up with chlorine in order to make it safe to drink. And then that causes massive irritation on the children. You see horrific skin injuries in all the Northern Treaty 9 communities because they're drawing often the water from improper sources, pumping it full of chlorine. Then you've got to deal with issues like in Attawapiskat where the pipes, they're outdated. They come from the 1960s and 70s. So like as someone said to me, yeah, they're going to come and put in a water plant. That's like putting in an engine into a dead old Ford at the side of the road that's covered in rust and expecting it's going to drive. They refuse to look at the issue, and they keep talking about the cost and the money that's being spent. The money is not being spent in a coherent manner. And so I think in a country as rich as Canada, that's just not acceptable. As New Democrats, we say the water issue will be addressed. Every person in this country has the right to turn on the water and know that their kids are not going to get bad burns and they're not going to get sick. And to do that, we have real opportunities. For example, in Treaty 9, Anishinaabe Nation, Mushkegowuk Council, working with them, saying, how do we put in a technical plan? How do we do this right? How do we look community by community from Bearskin Lake, Kingfisher Lake, Pekanjikam, and go through the communities and actually have a plan that'll work? Because I can tell you, and I'll bet the money on it now, half these boiled water advisories that were lifted last year will be back on next year because they are looking at Band-Aids. They're not looking at solutions.
Thank you very much, Charlie. We appreciate that. And then over to yourself, Morgan.
I think I would resonate with much of what is being said here. This is absolutely deplorable. This is absolutely just disrespectful. right? That we would allow people in our country to live in the ways that third world countries live. I absolutely, the Conservative government is fully in support of getting the clean drinking water, ending all of these boil water advisories out of the north as well. The Liberal government has been in power now for the last 6 years, and they've had plenty of opportunity to do something about this. Here we are still talking about this same thing over and over and over again instead of getting something done. We've got Justin Trudeau, who's standing up and it seems to be a little bit more about showmanship. He's running on some promises from past elections, and he announces this, the Truth and Reconciliation Day, which will be coming up. That's great, and I absolutely support the idea behind it that we need to recognize this and that this should be taught in our history books and needs to be brought to our forefront. But that's not fixing water in our north. So real change is going to come through the Conservative Party, and we need to be represented in Ottawa to get some of that funding so that we can actually do something about this.
Thank you so much, Morgan. And we always put our mic on mute because once again we're live
at the Surge.
Yeah, we're live at the
tonight.
Surge.
Yes,
and the Dart League's having, I think, their annual meeting, or it's their draft.
I think it's their weekly meeting.
Yeah.
They got the big night tomorrow night. So.
Yeah. So
can I just say I'm happier that they're throwing darts at you than they're throwing darts at us, the political candidates, because
right.
It could easily turn. It would go either way right now if we were there.
Yeah. A couple of things, like we know people are commenting on what's really important to them and what's important to the community. Obviously, with time, we can't address every question, but we want to extend an open invite to all the candidates if they'd ever want to join us on the show for an individual interview to get into further details. There's only so much you can do as a group. We are extending that in.
We can go through every single platform and what you bring to our area, the Timmins and James Bay riding. So if you are open to the invite, get in touch with us, and we'll definitely bring each and every one of you on for your own personal stage, and you can answer questions that way as well.
So I think we should do for the last round of questions and really have an open forum. So we can start with Morgan, and if there's anything that you want to discuss, if there's anything important for you to tell the people of the Timmins-James Bay community, it's like the interview, now is the chance to sell yourself. I used to get nervous when they told me that, but this is your opportunity. The floor is open. It's yours, Morgan, and we look forward to what you have to say.
No, thank you. One of the issues that didn't come to the forefront tonight is small businesses. Right, they're obviously one of the groups that are most affected by the pandemic and by some of these lockdowns, and we absolutely need to be supporting them. It's not acceptable that they have to shut their doors, because of failures from our government and allowing the rapid spread of this virus throughout our country. Conservative government is looking at this idea, or has offered this idea of GST-free December, where this is the time of the year that most of us go out and spend a significant amount of coin, and saving that extra tax from the federal government is absolutely a great idea, and it will create that stimulus that's going to be able to help float the economy, at least through these next few months. Conservatives are constantly the good friends of small business, and we absolutely need to support them. People of the Timmins-James Bay riding, make sure that you're buying local, right? Support your local shops. These are the people who reinvest in your communities, right? They're the ones who put your kids on the rink, support the soccer foundations locally. Without us supporting them, they're going to go down. So I think I would leave it at that. Thank you, guys.
Good.
Thank
you so much, Morgan. And we'll just go by order how they're lined up here, Mark.
On the screen, Charlie next.
Well, thanks a lot. I love that you guys are doing this because with the pandemic, it has been hard. Normally, there's a lot of public debates, and there should be debates because it's about ideas. And I think one of the things that's really what makes me proud about being a northerner, I've been involved in a number of campaigns. I've seen a number of provincial campaigns. It's the issue of respect. It's the issue of listening to one another. It's how we are in the north, and we need to continue that. I think the issue that people are thinking, and it's the big elephant in the room, is why in God's name are we having an election at this time? That's the issue. We can talk about our platforms and we can talk about our ideas, but it's really about the lack, I think, of adult leadership that we're seeing right now. People just came through the lockdowns. People came through a really stressful 1.5 years, and people did amazing through that. And we're less than 2 years into this parliament. It's been less than 2 years. The idea that Justin Trudeau decided to gamble at when everybody knew a fourth wave was threatening on an election, to me, speaks to a lack of political maturity on the part of the Liberal Party. I looked at the Liberal platform, and I'll say I love lots of it. There's stuff I don't like, but I love lots of it. What you do is you bring it as a speech from the throne in the fall. And we debate it. That's what democracy is. We debate it in the fall. We implement it. But the problem of the Prime Minister bringing this really progressive platform that looks like it was a huge cut and paste job of stealing all the NDP ideas from the last 10 years is you actually have to implement it. And we would have been more than willing to work and say, yeah, you want to deal with the climate crisis? Let's sit down with a plan. You want to talk about a housing strategy? Yeah, let's talk about how to do it. Let's put it to a committee. Let's hear from all parties. But that's not what's happening. So we're going door to door with masks. We're dealing with people who are very concerned. And we are doing all our utmost to keep our campaigns from spreading the Delta virus, which would really spiral things. So, folks, I am honored to serve the people of Timmins-James Bay. I work day and night for the people of our region. Throughout the pandemic, we never stopped. We were involved with the chamber. We talked with everyone. We talked with businesses. We did what had to be done to get us through this, and we're not through it yet. And we may not be through it till next year. But right now, we have this unnecessary election, and I think Mr. Trudeau doesn't deserve the mandate because I think he gave up the mantle of leadership in favor of serving the interests of the Liberal Party. And I'm sorry, that's just not good enough, not when so much is at stake and on the line. So if you have any questions, folks, you know how to get me. I live on Facebook. My wife said I married Facebook. Call the office, call me anytime, or I'll see you at the door because I'm out everywhere. Take care. Thanks.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you so much. And over to you, Mr. Black.
Thank you, guys. First off, thanks for hosting tonight. As I said, it's a great opportunity. I'm happy to hear Charlie loves the Liberal platform so much. Hopefully, his past supporters will reach out and support the Liberal candidate to ensure we can enact that Liberal platform.
Well, you have to support me because they know you're a Liberal candidate. You'll never bring it forward, just like pharmacare.
But I want to say, what's important to me most off is Timmins-James Bay and the people of Timmins-James Bay. I want to get involved. I want to be your MP to fight for this region and to bring the changes to this region that we need. If you feel that things haven't been changing or that the government hasn't been listening, then perhaps it's time to change the messenger. And I would like to be that new messenger at Parliament and fight for our region. I think there's lots of work to do in the areas that we've talked about, whether it be mental health, addictions, housing, childcare, seniors, affordability, small business. You know, we haven't discussed a whole lot about the natural resource economy that is the backbone of our economy. As a proud mining engineer, I look forward to taking the issues that are important for Northern Ontario jobs to Parliament and ensuring policy supports our industry and we continue to grow as a region. Just everything we talked about, especially the Indigenous community issues tonight, obviously are paramount. And if you haven't seen the change in the last 17 years, then perhaps it's time to change the messenger and give a new voice a chance to bring you that change that you're looking for. And I hope on September 20th or any day before, because you can vote today or tomorrow if you want, But on September 20th, I hope you vote Steve Black, and let's make the change needed here in Timmins-James Bay.
Thank you
so much, Steve.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to tell him thank you. You jumped in on that.
Jumping the gun there, but yes, again, thanks so much, each and every one of you tonight for your
and
comments.
don't forget, we got Mr.
We got Stephen
Stephen
McLeod
McLeod
to have his say on the same topic. Stephen, the floor is yours.
Yes, sir. Well, again, I'd like to echo Mr. Black there and just say thank you for having us. This was actually a great experience, being able to deal with or chat with some of the public that were watching, and really appreciate that. A lot of interesting comments from some of the other candidates here. I like Mr. Angus talking about how did we really need an election, and then he goes on to say that Mr. Trudeau needs to have his mantle stripped, but we can't really strip his mantle if we don't have an election called. So I do think the election was necessary. I think it's a waste of taxpayers' money considering how much they're saying it's going to cost us. But I do think that it was time for government to change. And I think Mr. Trudeau has overstepped his leadership by leaps and bounds. He's spent so much money in the past 2 years that I've noticed that none of the other parties have actually even mentioned that. The Liberals actually recorded a $354 billion deficit, give or take, in 2021. The Canada's net debt actually surpassed $1 trillion for the first time, and it's only going to keep climbing. And in order to buy votes, from what I'm hearing from a lot of the other leaders, is they just keep promising money and money and money. But where's this money coming from when we're already so far in debt? And our party is the only party that actually has a concrete plan and actually to getting us out of debt. And that's by creating jobs, creating and standing up for entrepreneurs and businesses, especially here in the North. That's one of my biggest fights that I will be fighting for, is helping to get jobs, get economy back here, get infrastructure back here. And that includes working at trying to work with the province on getting better roads up here, getting roads up into some of these First Nations, because they have so much to offer us, so much wealth and knowledge, and it's untapped. And we need to find better ways to do that. And then again, we come back to the big issue right now, which is COVID, and really bringing people back their freedom instead of segregating them, instead of making them feel like they're bullied if they don't do this or don't do that. And many small businesses are very affected by this passport. I've already seen it on Facebook where some of the businesses are talking about closing their doors for good now because they just can't keep up with this. And that's not right. That's not what we're about as Canadians. We're about helping each other succeed. And that's what I plan to do for the Timmins-James Bay riding, is to actually take your fight to the government. And our party is absolutely amazing in the fact that we can bring private members' bills to our party, and they will get voted on. They will get listened. They won't get squashed if they don't fit into a certain box like most of the other parties here. They actually want to hear. They want freedom. They want our people to stand up. And I personally want to hear from everybody. So I am also available. I've had phone calls, I have emails, I have messages every day, and I get back to them really quickly. And it's time for a change. Like Mr. Black said, if you feel it's time for a change, instead of voting for Stephen Black, you vote for Stephen McLeod, because he wants to hear your voice, and he's going to take your voice right to the top. Thank you very much for having us.
Good. Thank you much. Thank you so much, Stephen. All our candidates tonight: Steve Black for the Liberals, Charlie Angus, NDP, Morgan Ellerton from the Conservatives. Again, great topic. I wish we could stay on here for hours. and go through, you know, the probably the hundreds of questions that keep scrolling by. So many people tuned in to tonight's platform. But again, they can reach out to each and every one of you. If you know, you're available, obviously with technology, Facebook, you know, pick up the phone and do the old-fashioned dial. You're a phone call away, all of you.
Yeah, that's right. And once again, you know, there's only so much you can do with the restricted time when you're having a discussion with 4 people. But our platform is open. If you want to come on, have an individual conversation, answer more questions from the audience, just message us and we'd be happy to arrange that for any of the candidates.
Yep.
Awesome.
Day, we can definitely arrange to have all 4 of you back on, and
they can have individual time and more dedicated time to speaking one-on-one. But thank you all for your time, and good luck on September 20th.
Yes, good luck.
Thank you, guys. And remember, even to my colleagues, Charlie Angus, first on the ballot, first in your heart. You'll never go wrong.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate the time.
Yes, thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Wow.
Well, there we go, Kinsman. You're right. And we had a great question there. I want to post this one comment here.
Which one was it from?
It was from, okay. So it was from Mr. Fox. Some big questions going unasked. And he's right. You know, we wanted to have a discussion with all the candidates on the same screen.
Yeah.
Of course, we don't want to restrict them to time, but there is a lot of concerns from the citizens in our community.
Yes.
And we do want people to have the ability to ask those questions. So that's why we're extending an individual one-on-one invite to all the candidates to join us, where we can get a little more in depth with who they are and their platform. So, but I thought that went really
pretty well. You know, smooth as smooth can be, and you know, we will definitely try to reach out and have them all come on individually. And again, you can ask each, you know, candidate, you know, specific questions, you know, directed to their riding.
I need a beer.
Sarah says she needs a beer after that.
Yeah.
I saw one. Joanne says she doesn't even drink beer, but she's looking for one of the KINZ and KLOMP Live 705s. Thanks, Joanne. Carol says individual times for the candidates would be great for our show. So thanks again, Carol and Skip, for tuning in. And we also have some giveaways to do this evening as well.
Yeah, that's right, Kinsman. We do have some giveaways. So what did we do? We put up a post earlier on today.
Yes.
And we asked the parents who were celebrating their kids going, well, you can't read that.
Can't read that.
Get that out of here.
Hard to read.
No. You use color ink for nothing. But we asked the parents who were super happy for their kids to go to school.
Yeah, back to school
jumping up and down, doing somersaults. Like, it's a big day. God bless the teachers, but our kids are their problems now.
That's right. And we had $30 in Mountjoy, the farm to fork bucks at the Mountjoy Farmers Market.
That's
and
right.
2 tickets to Imagine Cinema 6.
So you're saying we are giving away 2 separate prizes today?
2 separate prizes out of all the ballots that were on that same post.
And you got everyone's name in there?
Everybody's name was in there up until showtime. Obviously, it's hard to clip. Well, we're doing the show, but here we go. This is number 1. So which prize are we giving away first here?
It's you can have some power
all
for
right.
once, Kinsman.
All right. Well, let's see who wins. Ballot is Evangeline Allaire. And she posted the picture. She says, mine was sad to see his siblings go, but this mama was beyond happy for them. So there you go. Evangeline Allaire. Do we give her the choice, or you know?
No, you have to pick, Kinsman.
Well, let's say you're going to the farmers market, Evangeline. You're going to be headed off there this Saturday, 9 to noon, $30
in farm fork to farm bucks.
Fork the farm bucks.
Right. She had a great picture, because I think her little one was sad to see the siblings leave. But mom's like, hey, you know, I'm sad, but you know, it's nice to have a little bit of a break, right?
It is, you know, and you don't have to feel guilty when you are a parent. You'll understand. So there we go. Evangeline going off to the farmers market. Again, one of our big sponsors. Wanted to thank Rock We Sell for providing us the fork to farm buckets and bucks. Why am I saying bucks?
Now we're giving away 2 movie passes to Imagine Cinema 6. So this is on the same post, Kinsman.
This is the same post. Okay, and we are.
Oh, the
The
dark
winner is-
people are getting wild over there.
And this is
Kinsman.
this is 2 tickets to Imagine Cinema 6.
Mhm.
Sarah Bedard. Sarah Bedard, she says her kids actually start tomorrow, but she's on kidless eve,
Yeah.
so she's pretty pumped to win. And there you
Yeah.
go, Sarah. You're off to the movies, maybe over the long weekend. I know there's a few movies playing at Imagine Cinema 6. 2 free passes. What's new there? You've seen Fast 9 still there. Paw Patrol. If you've got kids, that's the movie on this weekend. A few other ones. Candyman. Apparently, Candyman getting some great reviews.
All right, Kinsman.
There you go. That's Imagine
So there we
Cinema.
go. So you're going to reach out to them individually. You're going to do some work for once, right?
Yes.
And
yes,
contact
yes.
them and
Yeah.
tell them that they're winners, or what?
Yeah, I'll get in touch with both winners. In fact, Imagine Cinemas will get in touch with Sarah dollars in farm to fork bucks.
Man, you're not allowed to say that no more.
No, it's like the biggest tongue twister ever. Farm to fork bucks, farmers market, and Evangeline. I've actually got the bucks here at the Surge, so I'll reach out to Evangeline. We'll drop them off into your mailbox tonight, just in time for the weekend. Again, 9 to noon, she'll be spending them.
We are on the you're on the big screen, Kinsman.
Are we on the bit? Yeah, we're still there at Imagine Cinema 6. Our preview. We're destined to update that preview in a couple of weeks there. So we'll
Good. And
give it an
scrolling across the bottom, we announced our partnership today with Link North. So they're hosting an event called Pitch, and it's for entrepreneurs.
This is gonna be fun.
It's like the Dragon's Den, right? So pitch their ideas to a panel of judges.
Yeah.
And someone's going to win one winner of the grand prize. And you and I are hosting.
We're going to be hosting, and
Yeah.
again, it's going to be a big production. The big final unveiling is going to be in November, but the shooting for this happens in a couple of weeks. Again, Jamie and I will be a part of it, and obviously, without spoiling too many of the details, we'll bring you updates as we move along. We'll get some of the contestants on our show, find out what they're going to pitch, and again, without spilling the beans, we'll keep you in suspense until we find out who does win the grand prize pitch.
Look,
Right.
Kins worked hard today. Go have a you did like I don't know about your car
What
cleaning
the
skills.
car cleaning skills?
Like,
Yeah,
I did most of the work. On camera, you were doing the work, but once the camera went off, you're
That's
like,
right.
Klomp, go back.
I went and hung out with Pauline and Claudia, our mom there.
And there's our friend. There's the manager of the theater.
There's
Kinsman.
Colin. All
Yeah.
right.
And if you don't know, if you haven't been there, I always say they weren't sleeping when they were shut down. Every single theater there has the luxury recliners.
That's right.
Every
Luxury
single one.
recliners are in there, and again, Sarah Bedard will have a chance to check out those seats. Again, so many new movies playing, and there's not one bad seat in the house there right now.
Joanne says, yeah, Joanne did mention she ordered a pink sweatshirt today from our new merchandise
Yeah.
website. Thank you, Joanne.
Thank you, Joanne.
And everyone that's ordered.
Yes.
We really appreciate it. And the funny thing me and you are laughing about, everyone's ordered. You and I haven't ordered
We need
anything.
to order our own merch.
We haven't ordered
Speaking of
anything.
merch,
Yes,
hats
we
are
gotta do
faded
that
from wear and tear in the summer. But again, it's going to be pretty darn cool here.
We're still live.
What are you doing here? How do I get
There you go.
There's
feel like
there's Charlie Angus.
Charlie Angus?
coming
I
up
feel
here.
like it's like one of those live wrestling scenes.
Yeah,
you know?
That's right.
That's right. Of course,
My bar.
This is the time where I tell the jokes no one laughs at, except for Mark because he has to.
that's right.
Man, I'm sorry that you got it. You got the short end of the stick.
Yeah, there.
Again,
All right.
hey,
Take care.
good to see you, Charlie. Again, Charlie Angus is, if you're not familiar with the Surge, downstairs is his campaign office.
All right.
He was doing the show. He's come up here. He just might have a KINZ and KLOMP live 7:05 here.
You're always
Before he
pitching
gets
it,
outta here.
Kinsman. All right, pal. You're an old man. You had a long day.
A long day.
It's time for you to go to bed.
And before we go, our guest on Sunday, the very talented Marcia Chubb, is going to be on our show Sunday. They've got some news on tiny houses, and they're going across Canada touring. If you're a fan of Marcia, she and her hubby are going to bring some inspiration to communities, and it's very, very cool on how they're going to do that.
Yeah, I can't wait for it.
Yeah.
Last time they were on, they were playing music. This time they're doing something else amazing.
Yeah,
So,
they're inspiring with their music, but how they're inspiring is actually so cool. Can't wait to have Marcia Chum on our show on Sunday. She and her hubby going to provide some amazing details on this tiny home. Just imagine living in a tiny home going across the country.
Yeah.
That's what Marcia and her hubby are going to be doing.
that's my apartment when I went to university in Ottawa. A tiny home.
Living mortgage free is what they're doing. And again, stopping along their way. We're going to find out where their trek's going to start. Maybe it's already started now. We'll get up to speed on Marcia.
All right, there,
But again-
Kinsman. Well-deserved break for you, my pal.
Ready?
You'll be sleeping by what, 10 p.m.?
10 p.m. tonight. Anyhow, again, thanks to all our guests tonight, all our candidates. And again, the best thing you can do. Yeah, I know a lot of people are disgruntled at, who's doing what for which platform. But if you don't vote, that's the biggest dagger on the planet right now. You got to go out there. You can't.
Yeah, absolutely. Exercise your right to vote, my friend.
That's right. That's our right. So get out there and again, all their platforms. We're going to try and get them all on our show between now and when it is time to cast the vote. To get all the the irons, the wrinkles out there.
All right, Kinsman.
Right.
And now you go exercise your right to a nap.
That's right.
What a guy.